Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Writing a Trope Christmas Movie Style Story. My name is Hannah McAdams, and today we are going to talk about conflict and resolution. Okay, so are you ready? Conflict and resolution. In this genre, there are a few different conflicts. We add conflicts to stories to make them more interesting. Conflicts just mean problems that the characters are facing, okay? And resolution is how do they solve those problems. Okay, so there is a major conflict. Both protagonist A and protagonist B have a major problem that they are trying to fix. Look back at your character development sheet to record what the major conflict is for both characters and write them on the lines below. So I went back to the character, which is on page 5, the character conflict, okay, on page 5 of your handouts. And so you probably chose one of these. Job causes protagonist A to go to the small town. Protagonist A wants a promotion. Protagonist A is burned out and decides to take a vacation, or the family needs to come home to the small town because of crisis. So those are some options. Again, you don't have to pick those, or even if you did pick one of these and you want to change it, that's okay. But what you need to do is write the major conflict that protagonist A is facing, and then also figure out how it's going to be resolved. We need to do this before we actually write the story. How are we going to fix this conflict at the end of the story? Remember, in these stories, everyone lives happily ever after. All the conflicts are completely resolved. It is very unlikely that that happens in real life, but in these stories, that's the way it goes. So if the problem is that they're facing, the family is facing a crisis, maybe somebody's sick, then at the end, that sick person is feeling better. If they have to sell the farm, then by the end, that farm, somebody has paid for, they've had a charity event or something, they've raised enough money to save the farm, okay? So whatever you pick, it needs to be resolved, okay? Same thing for protagonist B. If so, you on page 5 have chosen one of these. You can keep this or change it. This is fine. Maybe protagonist B has a dream of opening a shop. Well, then if that's the conflict, then it will be resolved because somehow he will find some money and he will be able to open the shop, he or she. Okay, protagonist is pretending to be something he or she is not. So maybe hiding a royal status. Maybe she's pretending to be her boss, or maybe she's pretending to be a twin. I've seen one where she's a reporter, but she doesn't want anybody to know that she's reporting on anything. So any of those. Okay, I really like that storyline. I didn't pick it when I was writing this program, but I really like that storyline. Okay, or maybe the protagonist has a cause that is close to his or her heart. So I picked that storyline for me. So when I was writing the example, I have protagonist B lost a brother to cancer, and so he wants to create a cancer foundation to help with cancer research. So that's what he wants to do. Okay, or maybe protagonist B's family is going to lose the family business. Again, that's a very common one. So pick one of those or make up your own, but then also you need to make sure that you know how that conflict is going to be resolved. A lot of times if protagonist B wants to open a library, then at the end, he will find the money and open a library. Like, that's how it's resolved. Okay, so it's very simple. Whatever the character wants or needs, that's the conflict, they will get by the end of the story. Okay? All right. And then in addition to that, the protagonists are struggling with their relationship. So there's a minor conflict that they are struggling with their relationship. Now, sometimes it's the same as what we just did, and sometimes it's different. So, for example, protagonist A is going to destroy protagonist B's business. Protagonist A may be a major company developer, and so they've just bought out a bunch of businesses in this small town and they're going to build a big hotel, something like that. Okay. Or the next one, protagonist A and B are supposed to be enemies. This is a Romeo and Juliet story. So if for some reason, family A and family B, their grandparents started arguing, and now no one from family A can ever be friends with family B. So if you know Romeo and Juliet, that's what that is. Okay, or protagonist A and B are ex-boyfriend or girlfriend. That can be their minor conflict. Sometimes a minor conflict can be a girlfriend or an ex-girlfriend or boyfriend that comes back and is trying to win over protagonist A or protagonist B. Okay, or again, one of the protagonists is pretending to be someone else and is afraid that the other protagonist will no longer trust him or her if the truth comes out. So as you see, sometimes the conflicts are the same, but we need to write them different places. Sometimes they're different. I saw a movie a couple days ago where the two protagonists were getting along. They were getting, they were working toward their major event and having a lot of fun along the way. And they decided they wanted to date, but then they found out that protagonist A's brother did not want protagonist A to date any of his friends, and he was friends with protagonist B. So that's kind of how that played out. So they wanted to date, but they couldn't because of the brother. So anyway, that could be a minor conflict. Okay, so write your own, but then make sure you know how it's going to be solved. If you do, the protagonist is pretending to be someone else and is afraid that the other protagonist will no longer trust him, then we have to have that climax where protagonist finds out that the other protagonist was lying to them. And then how it's resolved is they just forgive each other. Okay. All right. Then there's an ending conflict. Sometimes it's the same. Sometimes it's different. There's always something that breaks up the couple right before the end of the story. Okay. So don't worry. They will get back together. Sorry, spoiler alert there. It can be that one of the protagonists finds out about the minor conflict, or an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend comes to the small town. It can be other things. Sometimes it's the same as what you said, so you may feel like you're writing the same thing over and over again, or you may have several different little problems that all sort of work together. So hopefully that makes some sense, but all you need to do is figure out what your conflicts are and how they will be resolved. Okay, you will have at least two conflicts. The major conflict that both protagonist A is facing, and the major conflict that protagonist B is facing. And then there's like a minor conflict that sometimes sneaks in, and then there's an ending conflict that breaks them up for some reason. And sometimes they're the same, and sometimes it's an extra little thing. Does that make sense? I hope so. So that is all I have for you today, guys. I am looking forward to seeing how this comes out. We just have our planning for next time. So after you finish your paper, which is page, I think, 8 today, then tomorrow we will just be working on plot planning. So we're going to map out the whole story, and then you work on your final project. I'm looking forward to seeing those. So I will talk to you next time.